Hi, this is Keeper, and welcome to On Air, Friday, December 16, 2011. Today, the breaking story that is rocking the entire direct selling world. AVON CEO and Chairman Andrea Jung's long run as CEO has come to an abrupt end. We will investigate and share this story with you. Also in the house, we have author Kathy Paauw, who has written the book, The Music of Your Heart, The Freedom to Live the Life of Your Dreams in Network Marketing, which has gotten rave reviews. She visits us today here on Air.
A record-setting company, a category creator. Our success is deep-rooted in tremendous struggle, enormous sacrifice, and not allowing the odds to get us down. On the verge of death, success was our choice. Failure was never an option. The unity, the leadership, our dreams. This is Zango. We've done it.
Welcome back to On Air. And now, the shocking story that is sending shockwaves through all of direct selling. On November 22nd, On Air reported to you that AVON was being investigated for bribes, major bribes throughout the entire international world of direct selling. Now, the second shoe has dropped as AVON CEO and Chairman and reigning Power 50 #1, Andrea Jung, CEO and Chairman, is now stepping down or being forced out as CEO. It's been a very difficult year for AVON as it has watched its stock plummet 45%. Andrea Jung has been under intense pressure to make changes at the upper management level. So on Tuesday, AVON has officially announced that it has launched a search for a new CEO, one outside the company. According to spokesman, AVON needs a fresh and external lens to view its business practices, which is why it is looking outside the company for its next CEO. Once AVON has located its next CEO, Andrea Jung will step down as CEO. However, she will retain her title of chairman over at AVON. This is a highly unusual move as most of these announcements are not done until after the change is made. This change that they are looking for a CEO officially tags Andrea Jung as a lame duck chairman, which kind of throws the whole business of AVON into an upheaval. Andrea Jung, as you know or may not know, is the longest serving female CEO currently on the Fortune 500. She sits on the board of Apple and General Electric. Disaster struck at AVON during its third quarter earnings announcement when it revealed a pair of SEC commission inquiries, followed by the company's announcement that its sales targets were going to be unreachable. Add to that the failed implementation of a new computer system in one of its key markets, Brazil, and that AVON has also had a series of missteps that have left analysts, and investors questioning Andrea Jung's now management skills. Also, AVON has come under fire from investigators for stumbles in overseas markets, weakness in the U.S., and the SEC investigations, and of course the whole bribing of officials and improperly disclosing information to Wall Street analysts. Just so you know, as all the other media in direct selling refused to report the story on November 22nd, only On Air and Direct Selling Live followed the story and decided to report it to you because we believed it was that important to our industry. Back to Andrea Jung. All this came to a head with a confrontational conference call in October that followed the earnings report. Citigroup analyst Wendy Nicholson, who was on the call, said the company is in total screw-up mode. It is so totally screwed up in so many ways, changes had to be radical. The Wall Street Journal reported late Tuesday, AVON admitted to those concerns in explaining its decision to separate Andrea Jung from her role as CEO. Fred Hansen, a partner with Warburg Pincus LLC, the board's lead independent director, said in a press release the moves were aimed at strengthening the overall management capabilities and intended to put the company back on a growth track. The Wall Street Journal is also reporting that during the past few weeks, AVON board members have made discreet inquiries into individual recruiters about possible CEO searches, according to one person familiar with this matter. After the announcement that Andrea Jung was going to step down, forced out, whatever you want to call it, AVON stock rose 5% after trading. Where does this leave AVON? Who knows? They just recently brought in some new management. I mean, within the past 6 weeks, AVON recently brought in its new executive in key positions, Kimberly Ross, AVON's new finance chief. She started work in November. Fernando Acosta joined AVON as president of Latin America on December 1st. They have already been making changes. Andrea Jung has agreed to stay on as executive chairman for 2 years to help search with the CEO, search, and then stay on as CEO to get the other person acclimated to the new position. In 1999 of November, when Andrea Jung was appointed CEO of AVON, she became the first woman in AVON's 125-year history to lead that company. Also, taking a number of sales reps. Oh, let me just back up. After talking to a number of sales reps, OnAIR found out that she's had trouble relating with those sales reps here now in North America. Outside of North America, she is treated as royalty. But here in North America, she's perceived as being cold. She's also perceived as being out of touch with the North American distributor force. And it just has not helped the situation. During her 5.5 years, the first 5.5 years, she led AVON to some tremendous sales numbers. I mean, they were just the darlings of Wall Street. But now, frustration has grown as cracks begin to show with investors in 2005. That is when profits began to stall, enough so that investors began to worry privately. AVON responded with, of course, the typical restructuring that it promised to boost margins by reducing management layers, simplifying the product line, and slashing the number of suppliers. But 6 years later, the company is in tremendous trouble. We're going to continue to follow this story, but now, on to Kathy Paauw, as this author has penned an outstanding book that is getting rave reviews. The Music of Your Heart, The Freedom to Live the Life of Your Dreams with Network Marketing. We'll be right back.
When my mother used to sell Princess House.
Joined them way that night.
Norma siempre vendía cosas de Avon.
Oh, it must have been around 1935.
But those knives were amazing.
The one lady's name was Mary Kay, and I said, oh, cosmetics will never sell on Party Plan.
Was a single mom and created these hair care products for black women and became the first self-made millionaire in the United States. I just think that's extraordinary.
Okay, welcome back to On Air. This is Keeper, of course. We have an absolutely fantastic guest. I told you she was coming. We have Kathy Paauw, the author of this really great book, The Music of Your Heart. Kathy sent me this book just out of the blue. I hadn't ever I didn't know that much about her, but she sent me the book and asked me to take a look at it. And I just absolutely love it. It's interesting because in February, as a lot of you know, we're going to start our book club, our Direct Selling Live book club. And after reading this book, I think this is the first book that I want us to jump into for the month of February. I'm going to recommend that we all get into this book, look at it, start to break it down, and get some of your feedback. So that's something, Kathy, you didn't know about, but come February, once Direct Selling Live launches its book club, the first book out of the gate is going to be The Music of Your Heart by Kathy Paauw.
Well, thank you. I'm delighted.
Tell us about the book. I have already read it, and I don't know how many of the viewers here have read it, but tell us about the book. I find it absolutely fascinating. There are so many books on the market that deal with direct selling or network marketing or party plans. There are just so many. And I found this book to be refreshing. How did it come about?
I have a background as a productivity consultant and also a business and personal coach. And I wanted to write a book that brought some of the things that tap into my expertise in those two areas that really tap into that in the book, because I think that those two fields, and they are two separate fields that I had brought together in another business that I have, those two fields have a huge effect on how people do in network marketing. People, most small business owners, if depending on what their age is, if they're young enough, they may not relate to this, but those middle-aged folks who perhaps worked for a company, and if they had the luxury of an assistant, didn't necessarily need to learn all of the organizational skills to run a business. And when we move into our own home offices, as many of us work from, if we don't have some basic skills, we get in trouble really quickly.
You mentioned there were two things that you particularly specialized in. What are those?
Well, as a productivity consultant, when I started my business 16 years ago, I called myself a professional organizer. Then I became a coach. I went to coach training school, got my certification, started doing coaching, which is primarily done by phone. And I got kind of tired of unsettling people's dust bunnies in their offices. So I decided to work virtually. So as a coach and as a productivity consultant, I brought those two fields together, and I started working with my small business owner clients to help them work more productively, and also to work out the issues between the ears
When
that
dealing
stop
with
them from being successful.
Right. In dealing with people who have those challenges, because I really want to get into a section of the book, and what you just said is a really great segue to that. But before I ask you that, when dealing with people who have those challenges, particularly those people in the direct selling field, what is the initial response when you're talking about coaching, when you're talking about being more effective with productivity? What's the initial response when you actually bring this up for someone?
I don't have to bring it up. They bring it up.
Okay.
It's when I'm talking with my team members, I hear it all the time. And follow-up is one of the biggies. If you don't have some kind of a system to manage all of your prospects and to manage all of your customers that are thinking about upgrading to distributor or whatever it is, if you don't have a good system, and if you don't follow, you can have a good system. If you don't follow that system, then everything falls apart.
Right. Well, let me ask you
this. So that's just one example.
Okay. In the introduction, and I'm going to read what you wrote, and I found it absolutely fascinating how you describe what really takes place. And I know you were waiting to hear what this was all about. I told you during our pre-interview, I was going to ask you about this without telling you what it is. But this is what you wrote. From the very top, why do people start a network marketing business? Many say it's because they want freedom to do what they want to do when they want to do it, with whom they want to do it with, and how they want to do it. This is what I found fascinating. Unfortunately, some of the home-based business owners I know, including network marketing professionals, are among the most captive people I have met ever. They have become prisoners of their own walls with a tyrant of a boss who cracks the whip much harder than any previous employer ever did. What a fascinating description of what takes place. The way that you described it is so true. I've been in direct selling since 1995. I was a very successful distributor for 7 years, but what you described in terms of the tyrant being more tyrannical than their previous employer, how did you come to that description?
I was describing myself.
Oh, okay. Can you elaborate?
Because I know all this stuff. Knowing it and doing it are two different things.
Yes.
And we often teach what we need to learn. And I believe in complete transparency, so that's what you get. When I started my business, my coaching and consulting business 16 years ago, same thing. I wanted it to be successful, and I just kept working harder and harder and harder. And then 6 years ago, I was introduced to a network marketing company that was a perfect fit for me, and I added that to an already full plate. Mm-hmm. And it took off like a rocket. And the more successful it was, the harder I worked. And of course, we all know that you've got to work hard at the start, and you don't get paid much. And that's one of those things that I think is, there's so many misnomers out there about the get rich quick that really hurts our profession. And I put that in chapter 1. Mm-hmm. If you need immediate income, go get a job. Don't do that to yourself. In my case, it wasn't the money. It was, I just wanted the success. I wanted to be at a certain level, and I just kept working harder and harder. And what I realized is that the harder that I worked, the more burned out I felt, the more out of balance I felt. And section 2 of my book is all about life balance. Mm-hmm. Again, we teach what we need to learn.
Right. You got into direct selling when? How many years ago?
6 years ago.
And with such a full plate, what made you decide to do it?
I had maxed out my coaching and consulting practice. I could not take any more clients, and I wasn't making the income that I wanted to make. I was trading time for dollars. And I realized that I needed to leverage. I had learned about leverage a couple years prior, and I decided I was going to do that by teaching webinars and recording those and selling them while I was sleeping and vacationing, and that was going to be my leverage. But I sat down with recording equipment, and I realized that's not where my passion is. My passion is with people. Mm-hmm. I don't want to create all these e-products, and that's how I do it. I didn't have any passion for that. And right at that time was when I was introduced to the company I'm with today. And it was a perfect fit.
Well, excellent. We're going to take a break here, but when we come back, there are a couple of other chapters in the book that I want to talk about with you. When we come back, Kathy Paauw, the author of The Music of Your Heart, it's a fascinating book. I recommend it to everyone. We'll be right back.
A record-setting company, a category creator. Our success is deep-rooted in tremendous struggle, enormous sacrifice, and not allowing the odds to get us down. On the verge of death, success was our choice. Failure was never an option. The unity, the leadership, our dreams. This is Zango. We've done it.
Welcome back to On Air. This is Keeper. Today we have our very special guest, Kathy Paauw, who has written an absolutely fantastic book for all of us in direct selling, The Music of Your Heart. I have read a number of books in direct selling over the past 16 years. This particular book is most refreshing. It's very different. I think any of you who read this book will really, really enjoy it. It's not your run-of-the-mill book, which is why when we launched here on Direct Selling Live, our book club in February, Kathy's book will be the first book that we get into. So it's an absolutely great book. Kathy, it's so happy to have you.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me, Keeper.
I don't want to forget to mention how people can contact you, because, you know, in doing these things, we can get to talking, we can forget about some of the really important issues. And one of the ways that people can learn more about you in the book is your website, themusicofyourheart.com. Tell us a bit about it. What will people find when they go there?
When you go to themusicofyourheart.com, and the is very important, otherwise you end up on another website. Yep. When you go there are several places that you can check out. I have a section about the book where you can read the foreword, which was written by Jack Canfield. Mm-hmm. You can read the first chapter. There's a table of contents, some information about World Vision, which is the nonprofit human services organization or humanitarian organization that I'm donating all of the profits from this book to. So if you're not familiar with World Vision, you can learn about them. And I've got some testimonials on there and some excerpts from the book. So also, I have written a document called The 7 Deadly Sins Most Network Marketers Commit and How to Avoid Them.
Okay.
And so when you land on my homepage, you'll see that there. You can subscribe. And when you subscribe, you will also receive a link to a song that I recorded to go with the book. I'm a singer, and I've always wanted to incorporate music into my work. The title of the song is Listen to Your Heart. And it really conveys the core message of my book. So you can get a download of the song before you even get the book when you sign up for the 7 Deadly Sins. And you'll also be subscribed to receive a weekly blog, which is about topics related to the book.
Very good. And you do speaking as well?
I do. My preference is to do webinars.
Okay.
So I'm very comfortable with that platform. I do a fair bit of travel for my team, for team training, and so if I'm in an area, I can certainly work something in live, but I love this medium of talking over the phone.
Okay. And if someone wanted to contact you directly without having to go to the website, is there an email address that they could contact you by or a phone number?
Yes. My favorite email address is Kathy, Kathy, at orgcoach, O-R-G, coach.net. And my phone number is 425-881-6627. I'm on the Pacific Coast, so West Coast time.
Yeah, and people can actually see it now. It's actually coming up on the screen, so there's going to be absolutely no reason why they won't be able to contact you, because everything has just popped up. And they've actually even, I didn't tell you, we just showed them the screenshot of the website as well. So they'll get a very good feel for what you're doing. I want to ask you about a couple of chapters in the book, and particularly certainly the very first one, the accountability partnerships, and the 4 components of that. In talking about the accountability partnerships, what is it that direct sellers are missing when it comes to that?
Well, again, if you've worked for someone else, you had someone holding you accountable. You had a boss that told you what to do, when to do it, how to do it, where to do it, and when to do it by. So we don't have that one. We are our own boss.
Yeah.
It's real easy to not, it's easy to do something and it's easy not to do something. And so one way that I've found that is very effective is to have an accountability partner and share with my partner what my intentions are for the next day. And I have a simple formula that I learned from a life success coach by the name of Jim Bunch. He calls it the happy, healthy, wealthy game. Mm-hmm. And where you have a happy goal, a healthy goal, and a wealthy goal each day. And that builds in the balance that I mentioned earlier. It's real easy to get out of balance when you're working for yourself and you're just working harder and harder and you're being that tyrant of a boss. But if you put some focus on those 3 areas, then the tyrant goes away.
That would be the tyrant that you talked about in the introduction. Yeah.
Yes.
I think we all could do without the tyrant. The 4 components of it, you've got your daily check-in with your accountability partner. You share your intentions. That's number 2. You have the measuring tool. When you in the book, you mentioned the measuring tool and whatever works best. What works best for you, or what kind of measuring tool would you recommend that people use?
Well, I think that every network marketing company has identified some core activities that are known to produce results. In the company that I'm in, it's known as the Daily 8. There are 8 activities, and the 8 activities that we have are probably not much different than the 8 activities that other companies have. One of them is personal development. Mm-hmm. I think every company needs that. Mm-hmm. And then, there's follow-up, and there's initial contact, presenting, whatever it is that you have, all those things. And if you have a list of those known activities that the top income earners in your company are doing to be tops, and you're doing those things consistently, and that's the key, is consistently. If you're doing those things and you're tracking them, So you have a scorecard or a tracker or some way
Is this
to
something
check off that you've done it each day.
Oh, so you do it each day. The fourth thing is, if you want to keep your focus on gratitude, share with your partner. So the fourth component is it the gratitude, or could it be something else?
Well, here's how I email my accountability partner. And so my email gives my happy goal, my healthy goal, and my wealthy goal. And there might be more than one thing in each of those categories, but I try not to make it too big. And then I have at least one thing that I was grateful for today. So I'm reporting either done or not done for what my goals were for today, or my intentions for today. And then I'm reporting my intentions for tomorrow. And then I'm sharing one thing that I was grateful for. That's not so much for my partner as it is for me. Mm-hmm. Because if I've had a really bad day and I stop myself and think, what's one thing that I'm grateful for, at least I'm ending the day on a higher note. I think that's very important.
Right.
Before we go, I want to talk about the section on who owns the problem. We've got a couple of minutes. If you could talk a bit about who owns the problem, and what was it that really brought some focus, some clarity to you on this question?
Who owns the problem is such an important component in what we do in the network marketing direct sales profession, because it's so easy for us to take on our team members' problems. Mm-hmm. And if you want to take it on, trust me, they'll let you take it. So I think it's very important that we get clear about, there are three problems. There's my problem, your problem, and God's problems. God's problems are the bigger problems that you and I together can't, it's bigger than either one of us. So, obviously there are corporate problems and other things too, but my point is that when you get clear about who owns it, whoever owns it is the person that is motivated to resolve it. And I tell a story in my book about my daughter, and she was cold because she wouldn't get dressed in time, so I put her in the car to go to daycare in her underwear. And it had been weeks on end. I couldn't get her to dress herself, and I was having to dress her last minute. All of a sudden, when she was cold, she dressed herself in the car. And the next day, when it was time to go to daycare, she was all ready to go. It was never a problem again. I had been owning the problem for weeks.
Well, we left out a little bit. For what I understood in reading the book, you would be on her to get ready to go every day, and she just couldn't seem to do it. And you were able to speak to a friend or someone, and they recommended just put her in the car.
And yeah, they said, who owns the problem? I said, I do.
Yeah.
They said, well, why do you own it? Well, because I have to get to work.
Exactly.
I really didn't get it. I didn't get it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Just throw her in the car, just give her the clothes and go, and all that will resolve itself pretty quickly. And lo and behold, it really did. That was so funny to me.
Because I never would have done that. Not in a million years. But it really forced her to take ownership of the problem. Either you're going to walk in there with no clothes on, or you're going to walk in there without any clothes, rather with clothes on, and it's totally your choice.
That's right. And we can do the same thing with our team members.
Yeah, I think a lot of our team members, we need to hand the problem back to them. Kathy, it's been absolutely wonderful having you today. I would love to have you back on when we do the book club in February. I want to be able to bring you in and have you talk again about the book, if you're up for it. Once again,
I'd love it.
Oh, fantastic. Once again, The Music of Your Heart, Kathy Paauw, Freedom to Live the Life of Your Dreams Through Network Marketing. It's a great book. It's a fresh take on how to teach and how to learn and how to get to know who you are. Kathy, thanks again.
Thank you, Keeper.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.